YouTube. Let's see. Come on, YouTube. Okay, it looks like we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Addicted to Audio Book Club live show. I'm joined by my always co-host Taji from Taji's World of Books, and today we have the one and only Carmel Rhodes, and we're going to be talking all spoilers about Truly. So if you haven't read it, I'm sorry, because we're gonna go full on spoiler territory right now. But first off, how are you doing today, Carmel?
I'm doing great. It's been a lazy Sunday. We've just been hanging out. I went and got my nails done, so I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Yeah,
Good.
we're doing good. We were looking forward to talk because we were like itching for some dark romance in our lives, and like this book just like scratched this itch.
I'm glad I could scratch the itch. I'm glad.
Yeah. And the
I
best
first had to get my I love Becca. She's like such a sweet, a good best friend. But I was like, if you say like, I thought it was like love deep, like deep. I'm messing up, and like she would just talk to Truly. I'm like, you're the cause of all of this, Becca. Like I was.
She is the root cause of every problem in Truly's life.
Becca, we would not be friends anymore after this people. And I was like, I hate him, and you're gonna invite him on the trip. I was like, Lord Jesus, don't make me put hands on Becca.
You know what? I loved Becca so much, and then like hearing readers talk about it, like, oh yeah, I love their friendship, but also Truly should have smacked her. And I was like, yeah, probably. You got writing, and I was like, she's great, she's awesome.
You got her at the party with the treehouse drama. Yeah. Her boyfriend on the road trip. I'd have been like, girl, you're supposed to be my ride or die.
Yeah.
You come to this party where no one's going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then her father is just like, oh, no one's going? Okay, great. I was like, what the?
He's like, I like it better
does Noah have like everyone spelled?
Right. Yeah. Yes, he does.
So I was curious, what kind of started the impetus for this story?
So
did you always know it was going to be dark romance, or you just have the characters in mind?
I had the characters in mind for a long time, even before I wrote it, but I didn't feel like I could do it justice for a long time. So I started it and I sketched it out and I made a Pinterest board, and then I stopped because I was like nervous to write it. And so then I wrote Pretty Little Mess, which is like, I always say it's truly light because it's like a lighter version of, not the same story, but kind of like similar characters, but lighter and older. And then I was like, you know what? I can do this. I got this. I'm going to do this. And I just sat down and I wrote it. But I've always loved dark romance. So like, even when I started reading romance, like I started with 50 Shades of Grey. And so some of the first books that I read after I got out of my 50 Shades of Grey haze and was like just rereading those and rereading fan fiction for 50 Shades of Grey were dark romance. So one of my like reading friends sent me Comfort Food by Kitty Thomas and Captive in the Dark by C.J. Roberts. So those are some of the first that's why I'm like, oh, Truly's light, And then the Twist Me series by Anna Zaras, like all of those books are some of the first romance books that I discovered. So I was like thinking that was kind of the norm. And then like when bully romance became popular, I was like, oh, this it. This like everything I love combined. Yeah.
It's my catnip. Yeah. I will not give it a 5 out of stars.
Something just about it.
In my heart, it is 5 out of 5 stars.
Right.
Really talk about Captive in the Dark, because I don't, by C.J. Roberts, don't hear a lot of authors or people talking about that. And that is like one of my first and all-time favorites, along with Twist. It is just like, oh, it takes it to the whole next level.
That's the bar high. Definitely set the bar high. And I was lucky to have like an OG reader friend who put me on early, like, because I probably wouldn't have stumbled across it. Because like you said, a lot of people don't really talk about it unless they like love dark romance. But she was like, get this book. She was like my book pusher in the beginning. And I was just.
Yeah, because dark romance is not for everybody, but it definitely, where Charles and I talk about this all the time. For me, it's where there's true conflict. It's not like contemporary romance where there's an office-based romance where we're having banter, or like a rom-com. Like there's legit, like I've been kidnapped. I'm like, we got to work through this. And the arc is huge because we started off in this bad way. And now as a result, you've got to win back my trust, and you've got to work towards it. You've got to like make amends for what you've done. And so it's like this whole thing, and I'm there for every second of it. And truly, like you said, it gives you a light version of it, but it's still all there. Like the way they start off to how they develop the relationship, to where the trust develops, to where it plummets. You know what I mean? To where again, it's just.
I was like, Carmel. I was like, you could make this so much darker, and I would be here for it. I'm like, kill off the brother, have him kidnap her or something crazy, have an accidental baby.
Well, like I do have a darker kind of romance planned. And I started it last year, but then like my grandma passed away and I just wasn't in a great space to be creative. It's called When Dove Cries. And it's kind of like mafia, and they're like a little bit older, and it's going to be much darker than Truly. Truly was like me dipping my toe in, and then Dove is going to be like,
I cannot wait.
I cannot wait. And one of the things I love so much about Truly's character is like she was saying a lot of the things that like as a reader you would say like, okay, you shouldn't be falling for Noah, or like XYZ is still a problem. So I loved how you were able to have the character herself call out some of the things that Noah was doing. I'm like, yeah, what happened in the treehouse was kind of salty, and she doesn't let him off the hook, but she also pushes back. This is like,
so in my head, right? In my head, the way I justify loving those kind of books, and you know, when I write, it's usually because I want to read that kind of a thing. So that's where all my book ideas come from. I'm like, oh, you know, it would be a good idea if this happened. I'd love to read that. So, but I always like when it's a little bit self-aware. You know, I love the over the top. I love the fantasy of it. I love, you know, it's fiction. You can kind of get away with a lot, but I still like to keep a little bit of self-awareness in it, just so it's like not too much of a suspend disbelief kind of scenario. Like you suspend it a little bit, but there's still that little like Truly's like, oh, this is crazy, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like, so I think that's important to make it more believable. Even if you're doing this over the top, crazy, unbelievable thing, if you have that little bit of self awareness, I think it makes it like a little bit easier to digest and a little bit easier to like lose yourself in.
Because like you as a reader, you're questioning the same things that Truly is, and then you're feeling just as confused when she has these feelings. I'm like, Truly, throw those feelings out the way. Just go for Noah. Like, come on, forget the brother. I'm like, you know what? Just make this a reverse harem, and then you can have both brothers. Done. I solved all your issues, Truly. You're welcome.
Right. There you go. Problem solved.
And two, I wanted to know, were you always planning on redeeming Noah's character? Because that's one of the things you don't necessarily see in a ton of dark romance, where they actually redeem or the hero actually changes based on his actions towards the heroine. Was that something you always wanted to do with that third act?
It is something I always wanted to do. And don't get me wrong, I love the irredeemable, the guy's the villain, and that's just that, and he is the way he is. But for Noah and Truly's story, I wanted it to feel as much of a dark romance as like a coming of age kind of thing. So you had that dark, disturbing kind of thing that happened in the beginning, but they're also young and they have a lot of like personal, emotional issues between them with their families and, you know, their parents and all that stuff, which I think a lot of people have. You know, we're all messed up by our parents in some way, big or small. So I wanted it to still be have that coming of age, like the road trip vibe and the whole like growing up and going off to college thing. I still wanted it to have that coming of age thing. So I think the redemption arc was important for me to like feel that coming of age, you know, kind of vibe to it. So he was always going to be redeemable. I just hope the readers were able to look past.
I agree. I think he was redeemed. I was like, honestly, the treehouse. You Truly, you can glaze past
right,
that.
Get over it, girl.
I was like, it was pretty steamy. I was like, it was pretty steamy, so I'm not mad. Like, this is the dark romance in me talking.
Yeah,
I think it's fine.
I loved how you referenced, because as I was reading it, like I said, this is my second time through reading it, and it has that poetic justice feel. And when I read it again, I was like, she hit it right there. This is poetic justice. I love it. And for those of you that like grew up in the 90s, like like you would recognize and see that kind of flavor in there. I love that you did that. That's amazing.
So you're probably the first person who has picked up on it, even though I do say it in the book. But Poetic Justice was a big influence for me because I just love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Right.
And so I knew that that's kind of where I got the idea for like two couples going on a road trip, and then like kind of the two that started together or not the two that end up together kind of thing. That was all influenced by Poetic Justice. So I'm glad that you picked up on that.
Love that. I love that. It's amazing. That, and I also love the like the simultaneous walk through the past with her mother's journal and looking at like, and I love how she says we see our parents as perfect and we see them as this like icon that we hold up here, but they were young once too. They made mistakes, had their experiences. And hers was written down right for her to kind of walk through history with her mom to experience that with her, you know, especially because her mom is no longer with her, you know, to do that, help her along the way. So I thought that that was an ingenious way to kind of make that link between the past and the current of what's going on.
That was important for me. One, because I wanted to show the connection, like you said, between Truly and her mom and where they were in those same stages in life. And also, I really wanted it to have that 90s vibe to it. But I know that these like young kids can't have all these 90s references and like all these 90s things going in it. So I don't think originally when I sat down to write it, I was going to make the journal entries as much of a part of it as it was. But it just, as I was writing and going through it, it felt like you needed the foreshadowing from the journal entries to know how Truly would respond to things and experience things and stuff like that.
Yeah, that comes across because it's Truly's relationship with Noah, but really it's Truly's journey with herself and self-discovery and coming of age for herself. Noah's got some things he's got to work out as a result, you know, and he does that, but definitely it's from her point of view and her perspective, and that comes across really strongly in the book.
Yes, I love that because you know some people wish that there were more from Noah's perspective, but I'm like it's not really Noah's story. Like he's in it and he's a major part of Truly's story, but it didn't feel right doing the normal dual POV when I really wanted to tell the story about this girl and dealing with the loss of her mom and like going through life um, and falling in love. You know, I wanted all of those things to be, but that's why it's just the one POV because it is Truly's perspective, and then you get the glimpses of stuff from her mom, and then how she feels about things and how she's processing things. And I thought that it was important to stay in her head the whole time so that you can kind of really understand the emotions that she's going through and why she's choosing to be with this guy who did this horrible thing to her, even though most people would run in the opposite direction.
Right. Now we talked to other authors about their writing process, and I'm curious, you know, because about wanting to tell her story and how like you were going to go about doing that. When you're writing through your process, do you hear your characters in your head? Like do they speak through you as you're sort of getting the story together? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I do, and I like dream about them and stuff. It's crazy. Like when I'm in it 100%, and they're all I can think about.
Yeah.
And so I don't really like have a heavy plot when I sit down to write because the characters kind of just tell their own story, and I'm just like the messenger. Um, but I do have certain things that I want to happen. So I'll write down the things that I know I need to happen, and then I kind of just let the characters go from there. And then if I feel like they're getting off on a tangent, and I'm like, okay, no, we're going over here. Like, you guys got to stop that.
Like, bring it back over.
Yeah. So I do like to have those few like points so that I just don't go too far in the wrong direction. And then I'm like, how did we get here? Like, how did I spend 3 weeks working on this that I have to delete, which I've done before, and it's not fun. So yeah, when I feel myself veering off the deep end, I like go back to my little plot points. I'm like, okay, we gotta get over here.
And two, I was curious, would you ever write a book for Becca? Because it seems like there's like, is there plans for her? Is there plans?
There are plans for her. So I left a lot of like little open things because I'm a mood reader in my reading taste and I'm a mood writer in my writing taste. So like right now I'm working, or the next book in that world will be Ronnie, which is Seven's story. And then I want to do Becca as well. Like I have that in the back of my mind. And then I also want to do Tracy, Truly's like college roommate.
Oh yeah.
I feel like she ends up with Truly's dad in my head, but I gotta come up with it. But
I
that's
love that.
You're already speaking my language. I want that now.
so those are all the ideas that are in the back of my head, but they're not like those characters aren't speaking to me yet. So like I said, they just take over and I write down what they say.
And Devin's book is going to be good. Like Devin's got a story to tell because we got all that backstory that needs to get flushed out about why there's that rivalry, and just like understanding how it came about and where it evolved you through that recovery process. And I can't wait. And who that partner is going to be and what that's going to look like. Like that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I love the reconciliation as brothers at the end. I was like,
yeah.
I love how
so
you
his
like
book
focus
is gonna
on.
take. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just thought love how you focus on relationships outside the romance. So like truly, you see that relationship with Becca for throughout the entire book. She doesn't like give a relationship with Noah and like where are these other characters? Like I love that how her other relationships are just as important as her relationship with Noah. And so I love like having that female friendship. I was like, oh, I like that. I really like seeing friendship in books.
I
alongside the
love
romance.
friendship in books, like because it feels for me realistic. Like you might not have a million friends, but you have that one person you call and you're like, girl, like you cannot believe what happened. And so I love friendship in books, and I do hate when it's not hate, but it's not my favorite when they're just the couple and they don't have anyone but each other. Um, I like the full picture, So most of my books have that like strong friend group one way or the other. Because I feel like it feels like you can lose yourself in it more because it feels more realistic.
I love to have the strong friend group, but it's a double-edged sword, right? Because like part of me, especially when you're in dark romance, if you have the strong friend group, the friend groups are the ones that like butt in and get in the way. And because we know what the point of view of the other character is, you're like, this is my business, it's gonna work out. But like at the same time, you do be like, girl, what are you doing? Like this is toxic. But as a reader that I want to see that arc, I'm like, just get out of the way and just be quiet. Go sit down somewhere.
It's definitely a balance because you definitely don't want like the meddling friend where you're like, go away, like get out. It's fine. He's crazy, but it's fine. Okay.
Don't worry. The meddling friend or the friend that's always dragging the person off to a party and then leaves them and then they get into you're like, girl, that's supposed to be right side. And like, and she's putting you in all kinds of dangerous situations and it just takes off and leaves. Bye. You're good.
That is so true.
It's always the people who don't want to go. It's like, oh, I do not want to go. I do not want to go. And their friend's like, no, it's going to be great. And then they're like, okay, have fun. Like,
they get drunk and take off. And you're like, oh my God,
yeah. Like, I didn't want to be here in the first place.
2 towns away from my home, no ride, no phone. Like,
no phone at like a random club, half drunk. And your friend's just like, peace.
Oh my God.
Hey, you need those friends to like kick off the plot. Like Becca helped start off Truly's journey with Noah. I was like, it's all because of Becca. It all boils down to because Truly wouldn't have done it. Like done everything like inviting Noah. So I was like, I applaud you, Becca, but I also do want to slap you a little bit.
Yeah.
But I love it. But like you're a good friend. Like I'll keep you. You're a little bit messy, but we'll keep you. We'll keep you in our lives.
Messy for sure.
So like when she had like the two boys.
But she always had good intentions. They just
don't.
Yeah.
I was like, I appreciate you though.
Right. It's like, thanks for trying.
Yeah.
I just like cracked up anytime Becca and Truly were talking to each other on page. I was like, oh my goodness. Like I could see me with some of my friends like having similar conversations like this. I'm like, why'd you do this? Like that was so stupid, but like I wanted to do it. So I love how we got to see that in their dynamic.
They're like 18 at the end of the day. So it's like they think that, and I love this in writing this, they think that they're like these mature like women like who are like, we're 18 and we're going on this road trip, but they're like dumb. They are dumb 18-year-olds just trying to figure it out. And I love that about them a lot because, I was a dumb 18-year-old thinking I knew the best in every situation, and I knew nothing.
No clue. We all were there, so we can relate to her in so many ways, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
And did you already know Noah's backstory and how that kind of played into the third act and his redemption arc? You always knew
I
like that
knew,
was kind of like the secret.
well, I knew some of it. I think it developed as the story went on, but I knew like he was going to have the abusive stepfather, and then um, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, like what happened with the dad and what happened with Devin and Noah and all that stuff. Like it kind of came to me as I went, but I knew like the catalyst for his anger was going to be losing his father at a young age, and then having this man step in and fulfill the father role, who was just like the worst, awful, terrible, and only looked at him for what he could like bring to the table, and not just like unconditional love, which is what you're looking for from your parental figure. But he kind of developed as the story went on, because I saw truly clearly. Like I knew her arc and her story and her family and all that stuff. Noah was the villain that I wanted to redeem, and that's really kind of where we started with him. And then as it went on, he like grew as a person in my head, and then I was able to like translate that to the page. But when I started, I just knew like this is the bad guy, but he's gonna be the good guy at the end.
He did. I was like, I loved his redemption arc. Like I'm a huge third act person. Like if an author can nail the third act for me and like if they break up or anything dramatic happens, like when everything was getting revealed, I was like, oh my goodness, Carmel, you're a genius. I love this. Especially when they
Thank you.
broke up, I actually felt in my heart. I was like, oh. And then 3 months later, I was like, I was about to throw my phone out the window. I was like, what are you telling me 3 months later? Like, why are we doing this
A lot
time
of
jump?
people say
I was like,
they're
what's
like
happening?
3 months.
I was like 3 months. I was like, let me read that again. Did she actually say 3 months? I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I was like, is she
a
still
lot
not
of
back
people.
together with him? I was like, come on.
You start to
I
get
was like,
worried.
Karma, don't do this to me.
You start to worry. You're like 3 months out. You're like, how much more we
I
got
was like, is
left?
there a
Like,
book two somewhere?
Yeah. A lot of people are
There's
like,
like
I can't
more.
believe you got three
There's
months.
actually a duet, you guys. Book two's on the way.
she took us
So
all
a lot of my
into a clip for sure.
just push you off.
I was sweating. I was like, oh. It's
A
good.
lot of my like early readers, like Tea Partners, they were not as much Dark Phoenix fans as I was. So they're like, you gotta redeem him. That's like the number one. Like I'm right now, but we'll see how this plays out. So I had to break the third act, because they were not gonna let me have any peace if I didn't. So that's that was my biggest motivating factor for making sure, because they're like, he better grovel. Like, no, she is not giving in. After all of the things that he's done to her, like, no, no, she's got to stand her ground. Okay,
I know
guys.
some. I know some of my romance reader friends would be like, I want to grovel, but I want it to be a whole book of just groveling.
Some people
I
are
was like,
like,
is that real?
it's not enough. It's
I
not
was like,
enough.
I'm like, do you need
Like,
300 pages of him just groveling? Yes.
some people are like that.
Someone
Some
going,
people
I need a
are.
whole series of him just groveling. I'm like, you guys.
Yeah.
No, because my whole thing is like either I'm gonna forgive you or I'm not gonna forgive you. Like you have to make an honest, like, attempt at saying I'm sorry and demonstrating that you've changed, but I'm also not gonna make you make a fool of yourself either, because now I don't respect you, like when you take it to the whole nother level. So it's gotta be that delicate balance between making amends and like, you know what I mean? Like not going overboard with the groveling. Like
Right.
Charles said, I can't do 200 pages of groveling. Like, cause then I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm done. Now I don't respect the hero at this point,
Right. It's
So
like either you're gonna forgive him or you're not.
get like and decide, you know what I mean? And then we
Yeah.
go from there. Yeah, I love that. So like my question for you is, do you have any idea? So like knowing that you are going to be writing more in this world, do you have any idea like in terms of when you'll start that process, or will you wait until you start to hear those characters in your mind to start to formulate a plan and then kind of go forward?
So I'm hoping to have Devin's book out by the end of this year.
Oh,
I wrote the first like 40,000 words or so of it for like an anthology that I did last
nice.
year. But then, like I said, my whole writing thing I
Yeah.
took a long break from writing. So I'm gonna finish that, and it should be out this year. I don't know exactly the timeline, because I'm just kind of like going on vibes right now, not deadlines. So
Ooh,
but
that's
my
dangerous.
editor, like, I know, but my
Just
editor,
like we just
she's
like look
like,
and we go like,
just,
how did Carmel drop
yeah,
2 books? And like, what did I miss something?
yeah,
How we like 3 books? I'm like, oh look, I'm like, oh my
yeah. They're
goodness.
just gonna come. They're just gonna come, and then I'll be like, they're here. Like, so,
Yeah,
but Ronnie's book, the heroine is Ronnie. Her name is Ronnie, and
okay,
it'll be out this year because it's halfway written.
got
It's gonna be like them in high school, and then it's gonna time jump in the future. So you're gonna see a lot of Noah and Truly as adults,
it.
because
I
it's
love that.
gonna
Mhm.
when the time jump happens, it'll be like after the epilogue kind of thing.
Got it. And so it will be one of those, it's a duet or a companion, but at the same time, you will have had to have read Truly first to kind of get the real context of what's going on. Or you could read it out of order, but it's probably better if you're
Right.
here.
It is
Read in
interconnected,
order.
and you can read it by itself. But if you want, like you said, the full context of everything, because um, the first half of Devon's book starts out that same summer. So there's
Mm,
a lot of references to Truly because they have broken up, and
yeah.
you
Mhm.
see his reaction to them being on the road trip. So you don't have to necessarily read Truly to be able to enjoy their love story, but
Yeah.
if you want like all the context and the backstory, then definitely you should read Truly. But I
Yeah.
do know a lot of people don't like the triggers in Truly, so I try to write it in a way where you don't have to do it, but it does help.
Got it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, I always ask
Mhm.
this because we are addicted to audio. So I always like to kind of go with that foray of
I
what is
know.
what is your plan for audiobook release, or will you do like a staggered release, or do you hope to do a simultaneous release, or any thoughts about that? Because I know it's a quite expensive process to release books on audio. So we do that in mind, but we love audio so much that we want to ask.
I love audio too, and I'm slowly working to get all of my backlists on audio. And I would love for Ronnie to be as close as possible for audio to the book release because, like I said, I don't really have a set deadline. I haven't like put up a pre-order. I haven't like made any dates, so I have time to get everything done and then release at the same time. But Amazon sometimes likes to play around,
Yeah.
I
like, and
know.
so it might be not like
Mhm.
exact, but I would really want to be as close as possible because I love audiobooks too, and I that's like how I read majority of my books
Mhm.
because we're all busy and like
Yeah.
work and school if you have school and kids if you have kids and like whatever else you have going on.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's like the only time I can read is when I'm making dinner. So I have to listen to books. So I really do love audiobooks and I see how they help people who have busy lives or who they commute still be able to do the thing they love without having to like decide between feeding your children or like,
I
you
know. I
know.
go like, sorry, you guys have to wait for dinner. I need to read
Which
this next
you know
chapter.
what? I've been there before. So, sometimes like, okay, mommy will be there. Just give me 1 minute. Like, so
Exactly. Or it's like I'm not
I
going to
do
sit
really love audiobooks.
2 a.m. and because everybody is sleeping, and that's when I can get my time to read, and then I'm
Yeah.
exhausted the next day. You know what I
All
mean?
the next day. Yeah.
Yes.
So I love audiobooks and I think that they um are really great. Like if you're a reader, you love reading, audiobooks are great to have in your back pocket.
I love it
Yeah.
because I was checking out your backlist in preparation for this interview, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like that anarchy and the kinky trials, whatever. I was like, I want to read these, but they're not.
Taji's just gonna just like buy every single format, and then she's like, "I have the ebook, I have the paperback, I have the hardcover, I have the audio." I'm like,
It's
Taji,
me. It's
like,
me.
which version are you reading?
It depends on where I am. It just, if I'm
Right, right,
in the office, I got the ebook. If I'm at home, I got the paperback. So it helps to
right.
like, kind of get through stuff depending on, but you have so many, I didn't realize you had so many books that you put out that I haven't had a chance to get to, like we said, because I think you only have the two on Audible right now.
Yeah,
Once you have more of your backlist, then I'm like, oh, I can dive into this and do an author deep
yeah.
dive. Super excited about that.
And you bring the steam. Like me and Taji, we're on our
I gotta
steam. We
have it.
need to find the steam. I
I gotta
even
have it.
started to control F my books like for keywords on Kindle, just so I know.
Just to make sure, yeah, just to make sure it's coming. I don't need it right now. It's okay if I have to wait a little bit, but I need more than one.
Gotta
I
make
need
sure.
more than one.
I gotta make sure this is not a
Like
clingy romance.
slow burns and clean romance, I have read and I have enjoyed,
Yes.
but they are not my
Yes.
favorite. They
No.
are like they have to have everything else going for it.
Have to. Like, I don't want to read the
I'm
whole
like chapter
book,
one.
and then you're at like the last page of the last chapter, and then you're like, no, seriously, it took that
Yeah.
long. Like, so it's not fit. It's some people love it, but for me, I'm like, I don't want it
I
on
mean,
And it's been
chapter
done well.
one,
It has been
they're
done well
banging.
a lot of the time, but if I see that it's like a slow burn or something like that, I might not. I might put it to the side
You have to
for
be in the
another day.
right mood. You have to be in the frame of mind
Yeah.
for that, going in knowing. And like I said, I don't want it on page one, but I don't want it on the last page either. So you got to make that balance in between.
I mean, I don't mind page one, but
I like
definitely
page
not
one
page
though.
300.
Like kick it off with kick off this. That's like the quickest way to get my attention.
Start with a bang.
Wait, what? Hold on, let's go back. Oh, I was like, okay, I vibe with this. Like, don't make me wait. Then I get bang. I think I heard this term like bang anxiety, where you get like where you're at 65% of the book and nothing has happened, and then you get worried. I was like, that's such a real concern. I do like, have they kissed? We haven't even had a kiss.
Then I'd be
Oh my goodness.
feeling bad, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? What is wrong with me that I can't just enjoy this beautiful love story?
I'm like, you can be beautiful and lovely and deafy, but I'm like, I need to see that steam. I'm like, I need that. I need that counterbalance.
Yeah, you're not alone. We're all there. We're all there for it.
So like, I know me and Taji are like primed and ready. As soon as like you say your audiobooks are up, I will just buy them all. Don't even tell me. Just send me the link.
Yeah.
I already know I have a problem with buying audiobooks. I just buy. I never listen to samples. I'm like, oh wait, I bought that audiobook.
Same.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you.
And I have so many credits like built up from my Audible subscription because if it's what is it, WhisperSync? If it's WhisperSync, I'm like, oh, I'm saving the credit. Here we go. And so now I have like 6 credits because I'm saving the credits.
Don't waste those credits now. If I can get it
right, those credits are expensive.
It's like gold. I need just in case something's not WhisperSync, or sometimes I read like other books that aren't romance or things like that, and they're expensive audiobooks. So I'm like, I got the credits for those, and then the WhisperSync is my favorite.
It's
just like $8 for the audiobook. I'm like,
sold.
Do I need this? Do I need this audio right now? Am I gonna actually listen to it? But I just still want it.
I just like to have it.
It's
just
there.
in case, because like we said, I go back and forth. If I'm reading the ebook, then I have to go drive to work. I want to still listen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's okay. And the audiobook is absolutely amazing. You have Lacey Laurel, who was like one of my favorite audiobook narrators, and she killed it in this book. I was like, okay. I was like, Carmel, I was like, you could just like extend that steamy scene. I'm like, just 15 more pages just for my curiosity. Just like for my curiosity, research purposes. I'm like bad. I'm like, now I'm like demanding. I'm like, okay, now I want 50-page sex scenes. Make it happen.
You know what? It's like sometimes when you're writing those scenes, you're like, is this too much? And no, it's not enough. You're just like, yeah.
Never too much. I love it. Yeah, she did a really good job, and she's in a couple of other, because she's in some QB Tyler books, and she's in one of Pam Godwin's things, so she's got an impressive resume as well. So that's like
she's doing Cherry Bomb for me. I'm actually listening to the listening to the final files now. They have a few like edits to make, but I'm excited because this one is going to be a duet narration where the girl does the girl parts and the guy does the guy parts. I think that's right. Dual duet. I don't know. The lingo I'm still like confused on, but I really like it, and I've not heard many like that I can like recall. So when she like brought up the idea of doing it that way, I was like, yeah, let's hear it and see what it sounds like, because I didn't want it to sound too jarring, like jumping back and forth, but they did a really good job so far.
Yeah, and Cherry Bomb seems like it's going to be spicy and hot. Like that seems like that's like angsty.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I hear that you're already listening to the final the final cut on that last bit. I'm like, oh, that's coming out soon. Then I'm excited.
Yeah. We're hoping for next month. So I'm listening to the Final Files, and like I said, they just have a few little pickups, is what she calls them, to like do just to make it match up so that you can do the whisper sync. But yeah, I'm excited, and like they are great, so I'm loving it. I'm like reliving it, and it's fun because when I listen to my stuff in audio, it doesn't feel. Sometimes it's awkward to like for me to reread my books because I'm like I wrote it, and so it feels weird. But when I listen to it and I hear the narrator's voice, it's like lets me detach, and so I don't feel like, oh, this is so embarrassing. Why did I write this kind of thing? And it's like, oh, this is really good, you know?
Yeah, it really is a different experience. I can imagine hearing the characters in your mind, right, and writing it out, and then reading it, and then hearing somebody act it out. Like I would imagine that would be all three would be very, very different because it's like the actors bring their flair and flavor into it, so it's going to bring it to life, but in a different way, maybe than what you hear and envision.
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool.
It is pretty cool. I enjoy it, and like I said, Lacey's awesome to work with. Um, Cherry Bomb's, from what I've listened to so far, Cherry Bomb's really good as well.
I can't wait till all of these come out so that we can like go through them and read them and then have you back on so we can like go through and talk about all that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, because me and Taji would be all over it. We're like, give us a day. We go, okay, we already read 3 books. Okay, what's the next one? We just go like,
I love that. I don't read as fast
as
I used to.
Yeah. Is it like life gets in the way, or
life gets in the way, and then I authoring is not my full-time job, so I still work a day job. So sometimes it's like, okay, do I want to spend this hour or two that I have to rewriting, or do I want to read? Like, so sometimes you just have to make some tough choices. But audiobooks definitely help me still read. 'Cause I'm a reader at heart, so I love books from every way, whether I'm writing them or I'm reading them. I love them all.
And we've heard that before, when authors, like when they talk about the case, most usually, they are avid readers and they love reading and they get into writing from there. But they say that the big sacrifice that you have to make once you start writing is that your reading takes a hit because you want to spend that time working on your manuscript and making adjustments and all of that. So that makes it a little bit difficult to be, so focused on your reading like you once have. So that's totally understandable. And like, and sometimes it ebbs and flows, right? Like sometimes you have like
exactly.
that go on with family and medical stuff, and then you're not at it as much. Like today I was trying to get through this and I was saying to my 8-year-old, I'm like, please, son, I love you, but I got an interview. I gotta finish this book. And he's like, well, let me tell you one more thing. I'm like, okay. What is it?
What do you mean?
Right.
And that one more thing was like, I left my light on in my bedroom. Like, really?
Yes, I know that life. I'm like, this was the thing that was so urgent. Okay. Thank you.
It's okay. My dog is trained to not bother me when I'm listening to audiobooks. He's very silent. Like I'm
awesome.
reading. Go somewhere and lay down so I don't have to deal with you. Only come to me when you have to use the bathroom.
Right.
Although
we have that communication.
She does when she gets in her bed, she does that scratching thing.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, what is she doing? He's like trying to make her bed come. It's like,
I don't know. And she won't stop. I literally have to pick up the bed and move it somewhere else. So like she doesn't, so she won't do that anymore. I'm like, why can't you just relax? But then she'll just go lay on the floor and be cool as a cucumber. I'm like,
yeah,
Chloe. I'm like, you're a special one. You're a special one. But I too want to ask you too about Truly. Especially in dark romance, you don't tend to see a lot of black characters in a lot of these books. So was that something that you really wanted to do, and by making Truly black and actually like not just by the cover? I'm like, oh yeah, like I can totally get I'm like the way she talks, the way her friendships. I'm like, I get that influence. And I love that she's on the cover because a lot of times you just see like the white dude and then you're just like, is it? And then you find out it is. And you're like, oh, okay. I never knew, but I like that you put Truly front and center on the cover, even though it may be more popular to go with a male author. I mean, male model.
So Truly, so when I started writing in fan fiction, and I wrote 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction, and so I always kind of wrote my first books with 50 Shades of Grey characters in mind. So I just wrote them that way just because that was, how I always wrote romance books. And so then I realized, hey, I don't have to, she doesn't have to be like a white girl with blue eyes and that kind of thing. She can be anything I want. Because it's not fan fiction anymore. It's, my books. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to write about black girls. And then I went from there and I was like, okay, I'm going to put her on the cover because it's her book. Her name is on the cover.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that represent it? And then I know like one, female covers are not as popular as male covers. And then to put a dark skinned black woman with natural hair on the cover was like a big leap, But I get like this is my vision, and this is what I'm gonna do. I don't care if it sells, and I got lucky because people really enjoyed that. Um, but sometimes it's not. It doesn't work out, and people are like, "No, what is that? I don't want it." But I am very much like, "This is what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna be great or it's gonna be bad, but this is what I want to do, so I'm gonna do it." And so she was always gonna be on the cover, and she was always a black girl. But it took me a while to get to that point where I was like, "Hey, I'm going to write from a perspective that I know and that I would like to see. Like when I'm reading all these black romances, it's never anyone that looks like me.
Yeah.
And it's never anyone that thinks like me or like processes. Like there's a moment in Truly where she's like, I bet you I'm the only black person in this town, And it's just like little things like that you're like, as a person of color, and you go to this small town in the middle of nowhere, you're like, is this safe for me here? Is this like
I'm getting horror movie vibes.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it was just little things like that I wanted to add into Truly to make readers who look like me, like really, really connect to the character and not just her be black in description only,
And you know what else I love that you did, as a woman of color? I love when I was reading and she's getting ready to go on her road trip and her cousins come over to braid her hair. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, like you got to like vacation. You're like, okay, what am I doing with my hair? Because I got
What did you do?
Exactly. And it was just little things like that I wanted it to feel authentic. Like this is what we do. This is just like a part of who we are, and it's not this big thing. It's just everyday life. My cousin's coming over. My grandma's going to cook. We're going to braid my hair, and that's just what it is.
We're going to have food. But I love that it felt like a blending of cultures, right? Like, so Truly is clearly African American. She's a black girl, but her best friend Becca is white, and it's not a thing. Like, it's just like, this is what we do. Right. This, you know what I mean? And there was no conflict and no real differences because it's not like that's, it's there, but at the same time, the core is their friendship, right? And their commonality and they're relating. And I thought that was super cool.
I wanted it to be like, I didn't want to write so much about the struggle. Like, Truly struggles and goes through things just growing up on her own. And that's what I wanted the focus to be. I didn't want it to always have like that struggle aspect of it because, we know that enough and books are escapisms. And so even though she's going through real life stuff, I didn't want it to always like go back to like racism or like the differences between like she has a white best friend or this, that, and other. And as someone who grew up in a small, predominantly white town, my family was black and like some of my friends were black, but I was always around white people because until I like moved away to college, I just lived in my little small town where there was like 5 black girls in my class, So that's like a lot of my personal experience in that too. Like Truly is black and she lived in Chicago, so she knows about her culture and she's comfortable enough in her skin, her black skin, and she doesn't have that like. I mean, she tells a story about when she's younger and how she like wasn't comfortable in her dark skin and how her mother helped her through that. But then now as like, 18-year-old, she's like, this is who I am and this is who I'm comfortable. And if you can't accept that, then you're not going to be in my life, basically, kind of thing. So.
And I love that you said that because unless the book is about and it's bringing home issues around racism or around ageism or just whatever the controversial topic is, whatever that is, unless the book is about that, I tend to believe that I'm reading for escapism and I'm reading romance because I want the HEA. And so I don't necessarily want, I mean, I get that those are part of our life experiences, but I don't want it front and center. Unless I'm going to go to a book that's specifically about that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of appreciate that and I get that. But I love that it was like hints of it was there. It was enough.
Right.
I thought about it, but it wasn't like, you know,
it didn't become her narrative. Her identity didn't become like her whole story, where she's like, I'm the only Black girl, like da 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 da. Like it was a dark romance. It just happened to feature a Black heroine.
And I wanted that
story.
And it's like, of course, there's microaggressions that we face every day. It's just they're there. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I liked adding those little things, but like you said, it's not the focus of the story. But you know, she's a Black girl, and so if she goes to a small town in Texas, she's gonna be like, this is a little weird. I'm not gonna go outside by myself, kind of thing. So it's like those little things that I think make it feel authentic to like the Black experience without being like, you know, Black people are a monolith and this is like what we go through kind of thing. Like I am not smart enough to tell that kind of story. I just want to write romance books and like just be true to the characters and to myself. And as a Black woman, I want to read something that I can escape into, even though it's crazy and even though it's dark and even though it's like maybe over the top, it's still kind of grounded in something that I feel comfortable in and I can recognize and see myself in certain aspects.
It was a wonderful story with great representation. I absolutely loved all that. Like it was like enough dark and enough romance. It was just, it gave everything. Like where you walked away, like at the beginning, you were like, "What?
Like and what? What did Noah do? Like hold up! Like, how you gonna do him? Like hold up!"
And then like you know like as you work through it with them and you see the characters and you see all the you know the plot twists and things that happen, and then where it ends up in the epilogue, you were like, "This is truly fulfilling." Like you felt very vindicated and fulfilled, and you got that full gamut, and you were like, "That I'm happy." Mic drop. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like what Taji was saying, it's so true because with dark romance, I feel like sometimes there's a tendency to just go for the spectacular or like just throwing shock value into the book, where like, okay, why do we have to read like 5 different assault scenes involving the heroine or something crazy that the hero does repeatedly to the
some
heroine.
Of these girls
where I'm like, and you still
be going through it.
I was like, okay, to each their own though. But I love how what happened in the treehouse actually influenced their relationship going forward, and truly was like, no, you're not going to get off from like doing that. I still like you. We're gonna work through that. But like their couple's redemption, their whole arc, like by the end, I was like, I'm in love with these two. Like, if you told me it was a dark romance, I was like, is it? And then I remember the beginning, but I'm like, the way you developed the characters was so satisfying. Because, like, Noah becomes, like, a completely redeemable character at the end. I was like, I love Noah. And the way he, like, stalked her when they were broken up, I was like, I firmly believe stalking is a love language that just needs to be, like, if it's consensual.
Right, exactly. Consensual. It's like, I like him, so it's fine that he follows me to class.
But you knew Noah was going to do that because early on she foreshadows and says he's like a spoiled kid that like when he doesn't get his way, he's going to like not give up until you like, he's going to kick and scream until you do it. So you know Noah's not the kind of guy that's just going to be like, okay, go off into the sunset.
Right. Yeah.
Don't be all up in it until you decide like, oh my God, you're not going away. Okay, let's figure this out.
I guess we're working through it.
Just like he stormed in and it was like, I guess we're doing this now. Like, you know, and it was like the scene in the bathroom where she was like, well, I guess this is happening so much.
It's definitely Noah's world and truly just has to catch up. He's like, this you gotta come to it in your own time, that's fine, but we're gonna get there eventually.
But no, I am not mad at Noah. Like there are some heroes that are like that you're just like heavy-handed. Like if you would have done that to me, I would have been like, you know, and I find myself doing that when I'm reading with Noah. I was like, oh, like
right. Me too. And it's so different for me in real life because I do not give my husband an inch, okay? Like not 1 inch. But in books, I'm like, it's fine. He's fine. He loves you, girl. He loves you. Let it go. But in real life,
that is the truth. My friend was like, can you just relax? In a book, I'll be like, you need to settle down. He's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right, right. I'm like, no, this is why he's fine, okay? Because I keep him in line.
Oh God. I love it.
I love it so much. Like the dark romance reader in me just like comes out every now and then. It's just like the things I'm okay with in dark romance. Like I'm not okay with them in real life, but like I
Right,
like some
right.
stalking. I like some BDSM. I like some breath play. I
I
like some
like
knife
it.
play. I like a lot of things in my dark romance. I'm like, you
I
kidnap
don't
you.
have many triggers. I don't.
I don't.
Yeah, same.
All, not at all. Like I'm here for it. I like, and it makes it interesting, and it makes it pick. Cause I'm like, he did what? What's happening
Right,
next? And we're
right.
all
Like
like,
what?
you know. And I tell people, I'm like, just because I read dark romance, like I might watch a movie that has a bank robbery. I'm not condoning bank robbery because I'm like watching
Right.
action film. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like this is
And
entertainment. Like
it's entertainment. And no
Mhm.
one's coming for George R. Martin, okay? Leave me alone. Please.
hidden adjective because he did some drama in those books.
He
Okay.
did
Oh
some
my
crazy
goodness.
stuff
He
and
did
they
some
put it
incest
on
stuff in that book.
HBO. Like everyone ships Khaleesi and Drogo, but he basically kidnapped her right there. Like that is what happened. Yes, I was rooting for them. Moon of my light. I love it. I love it all, but leave me alone, okay? Let me enjoy what I like.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's true.
I love it so much. I was curious too. Are there any other types of genres within romance that you want to delve into? Would you like to do like romantic suspense, rom com? Do you have any other types
I
of like stories you like want to like dive into?
I want to write like a fantasy, like paranormal kind of thing. So I saved this picture on Pinterest years ago, and it's like this black girl with this golden halo, and she's got like piercings down here, and I just picture her as some badass like paranormal heroine. But it feels like a big undertaking to like create a whole world, and I don't really have her story, but one day it'll come to me, and that's really one thing that I want to explore um, because I don't know, I just again, I'm putting black girls in everything. Okay, like that is like
I, I'm
my.
here. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Like I
But
love
I
when I
do want to,
find POC in romance books.
yeah. And
I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
it's like there's a lot now, at least a lot more in the contemporary space
Hmm.
than even when I first started reading. But there's always been like black romance books, but I think a lot of times they all get lumped into like that hood lit kind of genre. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, I love those too. Like, I love those
Hey,
too.
I feel you
I
on that.
love
I love
those
those
too.
too.
But I think like to see a lot more characters of color, not just black even, or like diverse characters, like
Mm-hmm.
characters that are more plus size or
Mm-hmm.
um, LGBTQ characters. Like I love seeing them more in the contemporary space because then it's like you get to share them with more readers. So a lot of times people are not going to go to the niche like
Right.
genres that those gems are hidden in, but they will see it like in the contemporary category, and I'll be like maybe give it a try when they wouldn't have before. So I think there's always more work to do, but I am happy in the direction that it's going.
Agreed. Agreed. And like you already said earlier, like that it's not part of the plot. It just happens to be that this is a
Right.
PhD.
Hmm.
That's
And you
life.
can learn about I was reading what is it, the worst best man, like
By Mia Sosa.
yes, and I've had the paperback for a long time, and I was just finally like picked it up. So I
Yeah.
bought it. I just go on book buy and binges, and then I just have them, and I never read them. But
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my gosh, she's Brazilian, and I was learning so much. And it wasn't even like her story was like I'm a Brazilian woman, and these are our struggles. It was just like she was with her family and like living her life as a Brazilian woman, and you just see that aspect, and you learn so much about it without even really like knowing that you're learning. Like you're just enjoying the story,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and then it's like you get all these like beautiful cultural moments that as someone who doesn't know anyone who's Brazilian, is like, oh my gosh, that's cool.
And that was the same thing I was just saying to Charles. I read Sanjay Patel's The Trouble with Hating You, and I didn't think I was going to like it.
Oh, you like that one too?
I did. And it was
That
same
was a
thing.
good
I was
one.
buying, I was rounding out an order. I was like, oh, I'll just pick this up. And I left it on my shelf for a long time. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. I don't think I'm going to like it. And it's about a, Southeast Asian community or Indian community. And you're learning about arranged marriages. But I was learning without realizing that I was learning. And it was so cool because I don't have much exposure to that community, so to hear how, mothers in that community relate to their children and why there's sort of arranged marriages and how that works out. Like it was all like sort of slid in there amongst this love story that was developed.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's amazing that we're doing more of that romance.
Yes, I love it. I love it so much. Even I went to Barnes and Noble the other day and just seeing on the contemporary romance table, you don't have to like go to the Black Voices section or to the LGBT. Like it's right there on the front table, and you get like a mix of. And they even have like my Barnes and Noble is really awesome. They have like indie authors, traditional authors, and M books and Black romance books. Like they have it all right there on the front table, and I love that so much. Like it's just like finally, let's keep going.
And that's when we've arrived. Like people of various voices arrive because it shouldn't be segmented off into different sections.
Right.
Be all there. And if I want to pick up a menage, if I want to pick up a cover with a Black female on it, or what LGBTQ or whatever it is, it's just all there for the taking, and there's no real distinctions or differences.
Right.
And
Exactly.
That continue to move in that direction.
Yeah.
And I love too how like authors like are kind of branching out into different genres and different couplings and tackling different sexualities. I love that in a series where you can have FF, MMF, like FF. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like a treat for me. Every book, I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna get in this next book.
I love it.
And I love that we're getting that. Like readers are okay with that because I know beforehand there would be just like your contemporary hetero readers that would just be like, I don't want anything that has MM or FF in it. Yeah. Now it's just like Menage is like a very sneaky way to like get you into that world, because then you see sword crossing, you're like, I wasn't mad about it.
I wasn't mad. I was not mad. Matter of fact, can I have some more, please? Like more.
Yes, I love it because my Menage is my favorite. That is like my go-to.
Mine too. And I get like if it's like, what is it, MFM, like where the swords don't cross, I'm like, this is a waste. This is a waste. Like, why are we here? Why?
Exactly.
Like, I get like reverse harem where they're like just separated, but if we're in the room together, we should all be in the room together.
MF all the way.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, there has to be vibes. Like, you can't just. I'm like, it doesn't make. I'm like, come on. Like when I see Nora swords crossing in the book, I'm like, okay, instantly not going to be reading.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
It's a waste.
Unless they're brothers, then like, okay. Then
that's what I was just gonna say. The only time I was okay is I read one where they were brothers, and then I was like, okay. I mean, it's still kind of weird, but it's fiction, so it's fine.
Yes.
It's only good in books. It's only okay in books.
In books, right? We all know that. We all know. Although, like I said this before, like reverse harems, it's got to be done really well for me to like a reverse harem. Like I just tend to go like, for me, then there's no real connection, and it just is going from pillar to post, unless there are real deep connections and there's a reason why we're bringing in other partners and they're part of our unit and they help us in a specific way. For me, I just kind of go with reverse harems. It just doesn't work.
I have read some reverse harems that I like, but my thing with reverse harems, it feels like just a lot for me to digest at once, because you have like you said, you're trying to get to know like these 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get to know these 4 or 5 guys, and it's just like, okay, like which one is this, and like who did that, and what is his role in this again. And so I've read some that I like, but it's not my like, it's not what I gravitate towards. But I know some people who are like reverse harem all the way.
Like reverse harems or nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like it's when I say up and coming, like it's here to stay. Like for sure, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out how to either get on board or like.
Right. And there's some gems. There's some gems, but you definitely, for me, it's like more of a needle in a haystack because it's not really my go-to genre. So for finding one that I can like keep my interest the whole way through.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I think me and Taji were both surprised when we had the same thoughts about A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. Like on surface, it was like super steamy, but then at the end we're like, there wasn't any connection between her and the monsters. And I was like, wait, so we're saying we're here for like the romance and building the romance and not just here for the steam? I was like, Taji, what's wrong with us? Like this should have been a 5 out of 5 for us.
Yeah. Yep. So.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carmel, for coming on my channel. Taji, is there any last final questions that you have before I wrap us up?
I think we got it covered. I'm sitting on bated breath waiting for Ronnie's book to come out because I'm super excited about that.
Oh yeah.
So we said there's going to be in this world there'll be 4 total books in this world. Devin's book,
there'll be,
and then Becca's book, and then and True's book, and then the college roommate.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that would love that. So there's definitely more to come. So all the fans can just hang on. It's coming.
Yes, there will be more to come. I'm a very slow writer, but they are coming. They will be here.
We'll be like watching your social medias with like Hawkeyes. We'll be like, okay, is there a teaser? When's it release date? Okay, put it on the calendar. Let's pre-order this.
Exactly. Yes, because I'm very much like I'm gonna finish it before I start teasing it because I'm like squirrel. Oh, this is a great idea. Let me start that. So yes, but Ronnie's book definitely will be here this year. And then, like I said, I want to do Dove, like my little dark romance baby. And then probably next year it'll be either Becca or Tracy, just whoever speaks loudest.
I love that. We're here for it. Yeah.
And then we have more audiobooks to come as well, which we are super excited for as well. Cherry Bomb is up next from you, and then we'll get news as like the rest of them trickle out. Right. But exciting. But thank you again, Carmel, so much for coming on my channel. And for everyone who's watching the live stream, I'll leave all of Carmel's social media links down in the description box down below so you can follow her on all the different social media websites. But thank you again, Carmel, so much for coming on my channel. I love this book. I loved it. Like you are officially on my auto buy list. Like I have my list of like go-to steamy authors. I'm like, okay, if I know one picked up a book,
I'll always have the steam. You don't have to worry about Fade to Black with me, okay?
I was like, if that happens, I'll be like, I'm like, what's going on here?
Then
I had to get
a Jessica novella. If that happens, it's a cry for help, okay?
Be like, okay, tell us what you mean.
Right. It's a subliminal message, and you should check in, okay?
Like we just read Devin's book, and is there any sex in this book? I'm like, wait, what? I was like, was everything okay? I was like, is there another edition of this book? Was this a troll? An April Fool's joke?
Right. This is the book you can take to church, and then.
I know what book I'll be. I'll take you Priest by Sierra Simone. I'm like, oh, it's just like it's not even about a priest. It's just like it's just a wordplay. It's okay.
That is one of my favorite books ever.
So good. She's such a great writer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing.
But thank you again, Carmel, so much for coming on my channel.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
And thank you guys so much too for watching this live stream. And we will come back with news about our next live show very soon. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys with a brand new video. Bye everyone.